5 years ago, on June 22, 2021, the Belgian state shut down a social media platform with 230,000 users in more than 100 countries. No verdict, no condemnation, no apologies. To this day, this is the story of Vitae. From early 2020, according to some sources, even as early as late 2019, the Belgian legal system deployed civil servants, working hours, equipment, and substantial tax money to destroy a young startup company. Other official channels existed to conduct a judicial investigation through the Belgian financial regulator, the FSMA, or the Ministry of Economic Affairs. Those channels were ignored. Vitae had the ambition to build a real alternative to the American and Chinese tech giants, a European social media platform, without addictive algorithms, without the sale of personal data. This first episode summarizes the Vitae affair, for everyone who does not yet know the full story. The Vitae project is difficult for many people to understand. Cryptocurrency, social media, network marketing, Belgian legislation, Swiss regulations. How do you explain that to a broad audience in 3 minutes?
So if you look at all the details, it seems very complex. But at the core, the story is essentially simple. You just have to return to the essence. So let's take a cruise ship for a metaphor. There are 5 elements to this cruise ship. First, we have the cruise ship under construction, which would represent the Vitae platform in the development phase. Second, we would have the maritime police, which would represent the Belgian justice system and the public prosecutor. Third, we would have the amateurs, which would represent the founders, visionary, but without experience in this field. Fourth, we would have the 230,000 passengers. They represent the Vitae users and members of the platform. And then fifth element would be the new captain team. So these would be the professional management of Vitae AG in Zug, Switzerland. And now for the story as it really happened. Okay, so a group of amateurs wants to build a unique ship. The maritime police suspect that that ship is not seaworthy. To find out more, they send another undercover agent on board at the level of captain and officers. Through this agent and through wiretapping, the police determine the amateurs themselves are beginning to realize that their ship is not yet ready. There are defects. They do not have the means to fulfill all the promises on the short term. What do the police do? They warn no one. They protect no one. Not the passengers, not the crew. On the contrary, for more than a year, they watch as more and more passengers board, even though they themselves consider the ship unseaworthy. Then, without any warning to crew or passengers, they sink the ship. And when exactly? Exactly at the moment the new team of professional captains is about to take over the helm. Exactly at the moment when Vitae AG in Zug was about to receive all Swiss statutory certificates. And exactly at the moment the ship was finally about to become seaworthy. That in a metaphor is the Vitae affair.
The Belgian justice system was convinced that Vitae was a front for a criminal organization. What does that mean legally, and what evidence was there?
Right, so according to Article 324 bis of the Belgian Penal Code, a criminal organization is a structured group of more than two persons that collaborates on a sustained basis to commit crimes punishable by at least 3 years of imprisonment, with a view to direct or indirect financial benefit. The crucial point, and this is the legal weak spot of the entire investigation, indications of that intent suffice. No evidence needed. Suspicion suffices. And that is exactly what the Belgian investigators had, a suspicion. No evidence, no verdict, to this day. The specific accusations were Ponzi scheme and pyramid schemes. I define both concepts and explain why they simply do not apply to Vitae, unless the Belgian justice system can prove otherwise, which has not yet happened after 6 years of investigation.
Was Vitae a Ponzi scheme?
A Ponzi scheme is a fraudulent investment structure in which early investors are promised high returns, paid with money from new investors, not from a real product. Fixed guaranteed returns are the core element. However, Vitae never promised fixed returns, nowhere. It is stated black and white in the terms of use. There is no free lunch. Only activity on the platform was rewarded. Vitae was not an investment platform. It was a social media platform. The platform itself was the product, with dozens of real features. In a classic Ponzi, lower levels earned less. That is the core of the system. At Vitae, the opposite was the case. Even newly joined members could earn through their own activity from day one. From day one. Vitae was not a Ponzi scheme. That is not an opinion. That follows from the definition.
Was it a pyramid scheme then, because of the recruitment element?
An important distinction is needed here. An illegal pyramid scheme consists when the only reward consists of recruiting new members without a real product or without a real service. Vitae had a real product. It was the platform itself, the community, and the features, the creative tools, and an integrated payment system. The network marketing element at Vitae, or the so-called MLM multi-level marketing, is a legal marketing method. Standard practice at companies like Amway and Herbalife, both publicly traded in the US. The commissions for networkers were around 1.4%, and only starting from a minimum of 10,000 recruited paying users. That requires considerable work. The crucial point is that membership was voluntary. Those who didn't recruit anyone lost nothing. Their account remained active, and they could still earn through their own activity. Now, Vitae was not a pyramid scheme. It was a network marketing, a recognized form of legal marketing.
When I hear all this explanation, it still sounds complex, almost as if it is a deliberate smokescreen.
And that is precisely the dilemma that Vitae was trapped in. If you explained it simply, people say you're hiding the real complexity. If you explain it in detail, people say you're barricading yourself behind complexity as a smokescreen. Anyone unwilling to understand the complexity needs only 3 words: Ponzi, pyramid, fraud. But those 3 words have never been proven. That is the real scandal of this affair.
What has Vitae specifically done to be legally compliant?
That is the decisive question. And the answer renders the entire accusation implausible. Because these are the facts. They are documented, public, and verifiable. So, Allen and Overy, one of the world's leading law firms, assessed the legality of the entire Vitae structure in all relevant jurisdictions. An American lawyer assessed the legality of the Vitae token with the US Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC. A brilliant crypto lawyer examined this from the perspective of Brazilian law. The new CEO of Vitae AG was a senior manager at a major Swiss bank for many years. The board of directors consists of international banking lawyers. A Belgian IT company with contracts from international banks developed the platform software for all the crypto wallets, and they implemented the PCI compliance standards. We have Valitax, a part of Ernst & Young, advised on global VAT obligations, and the software generated correct monthly invoices in more than 100 countries. There was a lawyer from a major Belgian bank who was appointed as compliance officer, and he obtained his certificate compliance officer diploma from the Belgian FSMA at Vitae's expense. A few days before the Vitae platform was taken offline, 2 professional marketing experts were appointed, explicitly to ensure that no indications of pyramid structures could arise. And then, the decisive detail. In the week before the Belgian authorities shut down Vitae AG, Vitae AG was on the verge of receiving the VQF certificate, which is a Swiss quality label for financial service providers in Switzerland. And it's supervised by the FINMA, the Swiss financial regulator. To award the certificate, the Swiss authorities check for indications of money laundering. And the answer, after months of due diligent investigation, was no. So, the question is simple. Would a criminal organization do all this, spend millions of euros on international compliance consultants, and deliberately apply for a Swiss regulatory certificate?
Why did Vitae move its headquarters to Switzerland?
Because the Belgian regulator, FSMA, did not yet have clear regulations for cryptocurrencies in 2019 and 2020. So companies were dependent on the personal assessment of individual officers. Incidentally, this was also mentioned by the Belgian financial newspaper De Tijd on March the 31st, 2022, under the headline, "Judge reprimands FSMA over sanctions policy." That is why Vitae turned to FINMA in Switzerland. There was a clear legal framework for cryptocurrencies already in place, in Switzerland, in Zug's Swiss crypto valley. This is not fleeing from regulation. It is quite the opposite. It is actively seeking the most transparent and clearest legal framework. And if Vitae had been a criminal organization, why did it choose Switzerland? Why not Dubai? And why not Kazakhstan?
The public launch of Vitae was postponed multiple times. Isn't that suspicious?
I understand why that seems suspicious, but it is the opposite. For startup companies, the beta phase, it means testing everything, checking everything, improving everything before going live and public. For most startups, this phase lasts for about a year or 2 years or longer. Vitae was founded in late 2019. It was taken offline in June 2021. The beta phase lasted well over a year and a half. That is normal. The comparison with Facebook does not hold up here. Facebook started in 2004 as the first platform of its kind. Users tolerated errors because there was no alternative. And Facebook's motto at the time was move fast and break things. Vitae could not afford that in 2019. It launched in a world where Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, they already had millions or billions of users. And a flawed launch would have immediately discredited the program. By comparison, TikTok took 8 years to break through in the West. The extension of the beta phase was a deliberate quality decision, not a delaying tactic. And the crucial counter-question: why would Vitae have spent millions of euros on compliance advisors and a VQF certificate if they never intended to launch the platform publicly? Even the undercover agent who attended monthly board meetings at Vitae AG in Zug, he must have known that the public launch was was concretely planned for the end of 2021. New features were ready. But 2 months before the planned launch, the Belgian authorities shut the platform down.
At one point, the Vitae token was worth $11. Wasn't that a classic speculative instrument? An investment touted with promises of enormous returns.
That is a fundamental misunderstanding, and unfortunately it has been adopted uncritically by the media. The Vitae token was a technical instrument. It enabled users to convert the credits they had earned through their activity on the platform into local currency via independent crypto exchanges. The social media platform and the token, they ran on completely independent blockchain. The price development of the token was determined by supply and demand, and that on independent exchanges, not by Vitae AG. So, in November 2020, the Vitae platform had nearly 38,000 users in beta phase. At that number of users, the token had already reached $11. What would happen if the platform, as planned, had millions of users? That is not speculation. That is applied economics. More demand, higher prices. The same principle applies to every stock on the exchange. Vitae never created or sold tokens. the blockchain-generated tokens. They are traded on official independent exchanges. Labeling that as a crime? That demonstrates a fundamental misunderstanding of how cryptocurrencies, well, the core message is simple. It's utterly simple.
What is the conclusion? Where does the core of this affair lie?
Firstly, the Belgian investigators suspected that Vitae was a Ponzi scheme. Instead of forwarding the case to the competent financial regulator, they launched a large-scale operation involving wiretapping equipment, tracking systems, and an undercover agent. Secondly, at the same time, they allowed 200,000 users to participate over a year. These are people they considered potential victims of a Ponzi scheme. They did not protect these people. They observed them. And thirdly, subsequently, they shut down the platform without prior analysis of the code, the source code. That code contains everything that would prove or disprove fraud. It was Vitae's lawyers who later had to force the court to analyze that code at all. And after years of investigation, the results of that analysis are unknown. To this day, the results have not been published. In late 2019, investigations begin, hidden. In 2020, an undercover agent was on board. On the 14th of June 2021, a VQF application was filed. On the 22nd of June 2021, closure. At the end of June 2021, the VQF certificate had reportedly been granted. And 5 years after being taken offline by the Belgian judiciary system, no verdict, no conviction, and no disclosed defrauded investors. The only known victims of this affair are the 230,000 Vitae users and the founders of Vitae. Their assets were seized 5 years ago without a verdict.
There are many more irregularities in this affair, too many for one episode. Are you an affected Vitae member, or do you want to help tell this story further? 20,000 members have filed an independent complaint against the Belgian state. Support for this legal battle is crucial, and it starts with the story being heard. weareVITAE.org. 5 years, no verdict, no evidence, no end.